Boker Tov. Today's daf is daf Pei Beis in Nidrim. Pei Beis. Yesterday's Gemara, just a quick review. Let's a quick review of the parak so far. Been that again, we've talked about a father with a daughter, but basically the example of a husband and a wife. The halachas are pretty much the same. Husband or wife, a husband can only break his wife's nadarim, again, cancel them going forward. If it's davar sheish for inu nefesh, if it's something that's self-affliction, or if it's something that's beina lebeina. That's what the Talmud had said. But the truth is, everybody agrees that if it's inu nefesh, it could be broken not only as far as the husband's concerned, but as far as everybody else is concerned. In other words, if she makes a neder that affects self-affliction, he breaks it totally. It's broken for everybody. However, if it's something that's only beina lebeina, only affects their relationship, he can only break it as far as their relationship is concerned. He can't break it as far as others. So if she makes a neder, for example, that she's not going to have anah from a certain person, and that person is not necessarily, it's not self-affliction. She can manage very well without having it off from that person. Then the husband can't break that neder because it doesn't affect their own relationship. That's the point of beina lebeina. If it's inu nefesh, then it could be for everybody, and that's pretty much the agreement. The question here between the Tanakama and Rav Yossi is which nadarim are inu nefesh and which are not. The Tanakama says that if she's not going to wash or not going to adorn herself or not eat certain kinds of peiros, that is inu nefesh. As far as Rav Yossi says, no, that can only affect beina lebeina, as we'll discuss more today, Mirz Hashem. So yesterday's Gemara mentioned that. Gemara asked according to Rav Yossi in our Mishnah. Yesterday's Gemara said according to Rav Yossi that says in the Mishnah, Ein elu nidre nefesh, if she forswears herself from washing or adorning herself. The Tanakama said that's an example of inu nefesh. And on Friday we discussed what's imis kasha and lois kasha, what that lashon actually means. But the idea is that she made a neder forbidding herself from washing or adorning herself. Tanakama said that's inu nefesh. Says Rabbi Yossi, that's not inu nefesh. Well, if it's not inu nefesh, but is it something beina lebeina? Does it affect their relationship? And we came out, yes, according to Rabbi Yossi, he could break it because of beina lebeina. It's not inu nefesh. That means he can't break it for everybody. But as far as he's concerned, as far as their relationship, he breaks it. So he breaks it, so to speak, partially. He can only break it as far as he's concerned, not as far as they are, as far as the other people are concerned. If she swears that she's not going to have enough from other people, doesn't affect their relationship, and it's not inu nefesh, he cannot break that neder, according to everybody. But the question is, what is inu nefesh? Which norm are inu nefesh? According to the Tanakama, washing and adorning himself is inu nefesh. According to Yossi, it's not, but it is beina lebeina. That's how we came out of yesterday's Gemara. The Gemara mentioned in discussing a case which is according to Rav Yossi said that if he says she's not going to wash or adorn herself, or if she forswears herself having relations with him, sexual relations, bia, what about that? So she has to do it in a way, she can't just say, you can't have bia with me, because she's obligated as part of their marriage contract. They're obligated to one another. But she says, so a neder like that isn't chalif. She says, you can't have bia with me. But if she says, the pleasure of having bia is forbidden to me, in that sense, it would be an effective neder, but he can break it. How can he break? Well, obviously it's beina lebeina. So if it's beina lebeina, he could break it as far as they're concerned, as far as the two of them are concerned, even according to Rav Yossi. And that's how we said that Bryce that we brought down yesterday was Rav Yossi, and it comes out that way. Now the Gemara has asked this question, 2 lines from the bottom of Pei Aleph from the base, where we left off. We asked the following question. According to Rabbanan, according to Rav Yossi, we said clearly that's beina lebeina. It's not necessarily tashmishem. It's not necessarily inu nefesh. But according to the Rabbanan, inu nefeshu, is it inu nefesh? O dvarim shebeina lebeina. And the nafkamina would be, again, if let's say she says that all sexual relations are forbidden to her, she can't have any anah from sexual relations. According to Rabbi Yossi, we said already on yesterday's daf that that's only beina lebeina. So when he breaks it, he can only break it as far as the two of them are concerned, the husband and wife. But let's say he dies, she makes a neder like that, and he breaks the neder. But if he dies afterwards or he divorces her, she is forbidden to have bia with anybody else because she made such a neder. She may say she can't. No, what her only option is to go to a rabbi to make a Torah Sadarm, but a husband can't break that neder. According to Rabbi Yossi, that's what we say clearly. But according to the Rabbanan, Tashma Shemit Rabbanan, Inu Nefeshu, is it self-affliction? And in such a case, if it's self-affliction, the husband can break it for everybody. That's what he said. It would affect even after their marriage is over. If he dies or divorces her, but he broke the neder now, so she could have relations with him because her neder is not valid. Is it Inu Nefesh? Oh, is Dam Shebein Beina? And that would be the nafkamina, like the Ran explains. The Ran 4 lines from the bottom of the page for nafkamina, the made for bein latzo bein lachem. Oh, or zon bein beina. Ula atzmo meif. He can break as far as he's concerned. Lachem and meif. That's the question that the Gemara raises now. According to the Rabban, again, according to Rabbi Yossi, we saw clearly it's only bein or beina. So if she makes a neder that she forbidding herself to have relations with anybody, and she does it in the proper way that the hana of the relations is usher to her. According to Rabbi Yossi, he could break it, but only as far as he's concerned. If he divorces her or she's widowed, she would be forbidden to everybody else. Okay. So the question is according to Rabbanan, is he the nefesh or Rav Shalina Amarle? So Rav Nachman answered Rabba, Tani Sur, we learned in a Mishnah. The last Mishnah in the Masechet that we're going to see soon. Avner just asked me before, when are we making a siyum? He hasn't heard the siyum in a long time. So I said it's going to be next week. Next week in Mitzvah Hashem Tuesday, we'll make a siyum. But on Monday, if you look at Monday's daf, next Monday, not tomorrow, a week from tomorrow, look at Daf Tzadik Amud Beis. That's the last Mishnah in the Masechet. In the end of the Mishnah there, the Mishnah talks about certain things that a woman said that in the old days they believed her. The Mishnah says, there are certain things that if a woman claims, we believe her, and she gets her ksuba because she's under a difficult situation. For example, let's say she's married to a Kohen, and she says she was raped. She says she was raped. What's her choice, right? A Kohen can't stay married to her, so he has to divorce her. But she's entitled to her. That wasn't her fault that she was raped against her will. So he says, so okay, that was one. Shemayim bein lebeinacha. She knows, for example, that he cannot perform properly in bed. Let's say, and it's his fault. He can't perform. So in that case, it's not her fault. Give her a get and let her give her ksuba. Or netulani menayudim, she can't bear to have bia. There are women who just can't. They can't bear it physically. They can't bear it. They just can't take it. So in a case like that, it says, okay, it's not her fault. So give her a get and give her a ksuba and let her go peacefully. Chazal Lama then said afterwards, well, it's possible that women are just claiming that in order to get out of the marriage, they've got their eyes on some other guy and they like the money. So Chazal, and then they said, she shouldn't have her eyes on some other man and ruin her marriage to her husband. What do they? So they changed those rules. They said, if she says, listen, I've been raped, she's got to bring proof. Bring a rape kit or bring Adam or something, bring some proof. In other words, which is taka I think the halacha lemaisa that in modern times, if Ashes Cohen was raped, you don't assume automatically that she's also, that she might just be saying that. If there's no proof to it, it's not necessarily forbidden to her husband. Hashemayim bein lebencha. If she says, listen, I know that you can't perform, yasu derech bakasha. So listen, do it in a nice way. Like try to make peace over here and ask in a nice way. Listen, I'd like to get divorced and that kind of a thing. But we just don't automatically believe her. Otherwise, we don't force him to give her a get with iksuba, but we try to work it out. Unatulim edhim at the last one, where she says, listen, I am removed from the Jews, meaning that she's effectively saying she can't bear to have bia with anybody. So in that case, Yefer Chelko, says the Mishnah, he could break his share, what he can do is this. He says, listen, she says, I can't stand to have bia. I don't want to be with anybody. I don't want to be married to anybody. I'm removed from the Jews. He can break his share. In this case, we're talking about where she made a neder to that effect. So, that bia with anybody is, bia, period, with any Jew is also to me. He can break his share. He can break his share of that neder because that's beina lebeina, but from everybody else, she's forbidden. Now, the fact that you say she's forbidden to everybody else, that means that the neder is chal for them. That shows that it's not inu nefesh. If it was inu nefesh, you could break it for everybody, as we said. The difference between inu nefesh and Again, he can only break the Nadarim that's one of the two. Either it's self-affliction, she's afflicting herself, or it's something that affects their relationship. If it's not doesn't affect their relationship and it's not self-affliction, he can't break her Nadarim. Go to a rabbi, he can't do anything about that. I'm not going to go to the Mets game this year. Whatever it's called, Citi Field is forbidden to me. If that's forbidden to me, it doesn't affect their relationship. Presumably, he's not a fan anyway, and it doesn't affect relationship. And it's not Inu Nefesh. He can't break such a netter. Okay, but if it's Inu Nefesh, he can break it. Period. The whole netter is gone. If it's only Beina LeBeina, that means that he can break it as far as they're concerned, but it's still. The netter is still chal. The netter is effective as far as everybody else. So in this Mishnah, what do you see over here? What do you say? He can break his share, and she can have bia with him because netter, as far as he's concerned, is not valid. But she is forbidden to everybody else. So that's what I'm back in our Gemara here on the top of Pei Beis. Rabbi Yochanan answered. Nachman answered Rava. And so told me, he can break his share, and she can have bia with him. But she's forbidden to everybody else. If it's eating nefesh, why she should be for everybody else? If it's eating nefesh, you can break it totally. So the fact that he can't break it totally, he can only break it as far as he's concerned, but not for everybody else, shows you that it's only beina lebeina, but it's not inu nefesh. In other words, just like we've learned that. Well, let's see the answer. And so you see that it's only dvar shel since he can only break it as far as he's concerned. Says the Gemara, the answer is no. You're still going to have a kasha according to Rabbanan. Remember, how did we all start off this kasha? 2 lines from the bottom of the page. The question. According to Rav Yossi, we already had it yesterday's stuff that it's only beina lebeina. That Tashra Shemitah is not having bia. Many people can go without having bia. It's not necessarily self-affliction. It does affect their relationship, but it's not in nefesh. The question is according to Rabbanan. Is it in a nefesh and he can break it for everybody or only as far as they're concerned? Says no. Because that mishnah that I just quoted at the end of the parak on next Monday's daf, Rabbi Yossi Tanlas, Rabbi Yossi, Dama Rav Huna said the whole parak is Rabbi Yossi. There's various mishnayos. We're going to see another mishnah tomorrow, Mirz Hashem, on Pei Gimel Amud Beis, and other mishnayos about things that she says she forbids this. It's all Rabbi Yossi. It's all Rabbi Yossi. How do we? And we already said in yesterday's chapter. According to Rabbi Yossi, it's beina lebeina. What about according to Rabbanan? Is if she forbids herself to have bia, period, is that inu nefesh or is it beina lebeina? Again, they're not permitted. Could he break for everybody or only for himself? According to Rabbi Yossi, it's beina lebeina, as we've already said. He says that mishnah you're quoting, that you're asking a kasha from, that you're bringing a proof from. Then two Yudim can only break it for himself and not for anybody else. And you want to show from that it's only beina, that's not a proof to Rabbanan. That's Rabbi Yossi. How do we know the whole parak is Rabbi Yossi? Because we look back on Ayin Testament Beis when we started the parak on Ayin Testament Beis, right? We had the Mishnah and I'm off the bottom of the Rabbanan Shita. Amar Rabbi Yossi, the very top of Ayin Testament Beis is Amar Rabbi Yossi, Ein Elin, that's not any nefesh. No, the washing and adorning is not any nefesh. What is Elin? What is nefesh? Amar Kohen Perishal my Fayasser, all the fruits of the world on me. That's any nefesh. And it goes on to say this. And then at the end of the Mishnah it says, why does it say Rabbi Yossi again? It said at the top of the page, in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yossi, and all that he says, Divrei Rabbi Yossi. Why did it say again Divrei Rabbi Yossi? Again, in our Gemara, Mimai, keeping the Tanur Rabbi Yossi, why do you have to say at the end of the Mishnah, Divrei Rabbi Yossi? Why do you have to again say, tell you that the whole parak is Rabbi Yossi. All the Mishnahs in this parak are Rabbi Yossi, and as we'll see, that's not necessarily the halacha. The Ran Shita, as we'll see. That's not necessarily halacha. That's Rabbi Yossi Shita. But again, according to Rabbanan, the Gemara is not posted that child. So take a look at the Ran, 6 lines down in the Ran on the left side from the top of the page. From the top of the page in the Ran, Ulin and halacha, keeping the boy Shita. Since we didn't, the Gemara doesn't solve that question. Doesn't resolve the question of according to Rabbanan, is bia, is it inu nefesh or is it only beina lebeina? It's obviously beina lebeina. Right, it affects their relationship. Without bia, that affects the relationship. But the question is it in nefesh? The question is not decided. Naktina, and therefore we hold the chumra. We go the chumra. The we can't break it. In other words, it's a cool if you can break it. Right? You can break it, it's over. But it's a chumra to say, well, we don't really know, and therefore he can't break it as far as everybody else is concerned. Elam mishum devarim v'emel, he can only break it as far as he's concerned. So it comes out halacha. There's no difference between Rabbanan and Rabbi Yossi because we don't know what the Rabbanan would say Would the Rabbanan say that inu nefesh is that bia is inu nefesh? We don't know that it is. We said Rabbi Yossi says it's not. What would the Rabbanan say? We don't know. Therefore, we can't prove. Since we can't prove it, we have to assume that according to Rabbanan, it's not inu nefesh. It's only bein al beinon. He can only break it as far as he's concerned, not as far as everybody else is concerned. That's how the Ran ends off this question. Amar Shmuel, back in the Gemara, halfway down the page of the Gemara. Amar Shmuel Mishmei the Levi. He says Allah Chagas. Kol Nadarim, and the Ran explains that this is Nadarim of inu nefesh, of self-affliction. All Nadarim of self-affliction, Baal made for Leishta, he can break for his wife, Chutz, unless she says Mina Nasi Ploni. If it's not a self-affliction, it's somebody else's affliction. If she says that Yankel can't have enough from me, I don't want Yankel to have any enough from any of my assets. My physical being or my asset can't have enough. He can't break that. She'ena Mefer. He can't break that. Why? That's not self-affliction. It's not even nefesh for her. It's for Yankel. Chutz Manasi al Ploni. Aval Anos Ploni a lie. If she says I can't have any enough from Yankel, Mefer, he could break that. He could break such a netter because maybe that guy is the salesman, or he's the shoe man, or the shoemaker, or he sells cars or whatever. But if she says I can't have any enough from that person, and maybe that person sells items which she needs or does services that she needs, that he could break. So Shmuel says very clearly that all Nadarim that involve inu nefesh, according to the Ran, Amar Shmuel Shmei Levi, it says the Ran, V'hu davi idri nefesh, a husband can break for his wife, except for things that don't involve inu nefesh. But if it's inu nefesh, he can break any netter for his wife. Okay, that's what Shmuel says. That's this halacha. So now we're going to try to disprove that. Our own Mishnah, again, the Mishnah I am Testament based, the top of I am Testament based, the Mishnah said over there. What do the Mishnah say? Tashma, want to bring a proof from there. Tanan. Paris Medina, so will lie. Remember, the Mishnah said, Rabbi Yossi said, that's not inu nefesh, washing and adorning. What is inu nefesh? If she forbids all fruits in the world on herself. Okay, that's inu nefesh. What about her? What about if he said, Paris Medina Zoo, I don't want the fruits of this country. This country, I'm not going to eat the fruits of this country. Tam Paris Medina Zoo, a lie, that's inu nefesh. He doesn't say, can't break. If it's inu nefesh, she should be able to break the net, or the husband should be able to break, but we don't say that. The Mishnah says, no, you can't get it from this country, so bring him from somewhere else. Bring him from Jordan. We had before that possibly she wasn't talking about this Medina. She just said, not the Medina in which she's in. She's talking about, I don't want any, let's say she's in America, and she says, I don't want any pears from Canada. So bring her from Mexico. You know, it involves the same word. And she says, Medina's a lie. You can bring from another country. Why? Why isn't that inu nefesh? If it's inu nefesh, according to Shmuel said any Nadarim that involve inu nefesh, the husband could break. Why isn't it inu nefesh? Amar Yosef, the Ka'amrit Shetavi. It's not inu nefesh at all. You know why? Because she said, this is the initial answer here. The interim answer is that she said, I don't want payers from this country if you brought them. If you brought them from this country, I don't want them. Kagon, says the Ran before the lines get wide, Kagon, the Kamer payers Medina's Ualai im taviyamata, if you bring them. But if somebody else brings them, I don't mind. I just don't want you to bring me any payers from that country. So that it's not really such inu nefesh, right? Because she's just saying, I don't want you to bring them. She tells her husband, I'm not going to eat any payers from that country if you bring them. Okay, so what's the answer? Bring them so he can bring her from another country, because she didn't really, it's not really inu nefesh, since she didn't forbid the payers. She just said, if you bring them, I don't want them. Dochik answer, but that's what the Gemara says at this point. The Kamer Tzatavi, Tashma. Okay, the next case in the Mishnah. Peres Chambani Zelai. I don't want the fruits from this shop, from this makolet. And Yochalev, can't break them again. Why? Because he can bring them from another makolet. Why? But it's still inu nefesh. She can't eat any of those fruits or any of the food from this makolet. So Chanami the Kamer Shetaviata. Here again is speaking about where she said, if you bring them, but if somebody else brings them, it's okay. So she's not really forbidding herself from fruits at all, even from that store, because she just said, I don't want the fruits from this store. If you bring them, he can't break that netter because somebody else could bring them. It's not a problem. Okay, if this is so Gemara says, if that's your answer for those two cases, what about the last case? The last case in the mission was Loisa Panasas or Elvivenu. She forbade herself from eating payros from that storekeeper. And at this point, we're saying it's speaking about where she said only if you bring them. But let's say she says, I don't want from that storekeeper, and that's the only place that he could buy them because nobody else gave him credit. That's his regular shop, the regular store that he goes to. Then I'll raise you if he could break him. Why? Why can he break the Yamr, the Kamar Shatavi Ata? If it's speaking about a case, all these cases are where she says, if you bring them, why should he break them? Just have somebody else bring them. Have somebody else say, listen, I'm buying the payers here, put him on Jim's account. He is a cheshbon with you, right? He's got credit. Why should he break it? Elamida say that's clear, since you say in the Mishnah, in Lois of Parnaso, Elamina Hareze, if he could break it, why could he break it if you're just talking about only if he brings them from the store? But if somebody else brings them, it's okay. Why break the net? Just like in the other cases, have somebody else bring them, not the husband. Since the Sefer, where it says he could break that netter, not speaking about where only the husband had to bring it, because otherwise, why would he break it? Just have somebody else bring them. Since the Sefer speaking where the husband does not bring it, Reisha also the Kamaisi he is all the Reisha also, it's a strange lashon. Reisha the Kamaisi is also speaking where the Reisha is also where she brought them. She could bring them. Not Africa. She didn't forbid herself only payers from these guys or from this store if he brought them. She forbade herself totally. The truth is the Reisha she can't break. Why not? Uda Kamaisi. The truth is that the Reisha is speaking about he can't break. And we said again. Rav Yossi said 4 cases. He said these are not in nefesh. Washing and kosher is not. It is in nefesh. She forbids all the payers in the world. If she forbids only from this country, can't break it. You can't break it. Bring her somewhere else. Or if she says from this store, bring her from another store. And it's not talking about what she said if you bring him. She said, yeah, in general, this country or this store. And he can't break it. And she's bringing it. You know why? As we just said before. This is not a kasha on Shmuel. Shmuel is going like the Rabbanan. He paskins like the Rabbanan who say that is inui nefesh. That's when he says that anything of inui nefesh, the husband can break. Why over here can't he break it in these cases in the Mishnah? As we said, this is Rav Yossi. Not only like we said, Mastis Rav Yossi, Dam Rav Huna Kula Pek Rav Yossi. The truth is, I don't need Rav Huna's halacha that we mentioned on Abad Alpha. We're going to say later on, and we mentioned over here. Rav Yossi says, oh, the whole parak is Rav Yossi. Why? Because why did it say? It said Upper Rav Yossi, any other nefesh, and then at the end of the first Mishnah, it's Div Rav Yossi. Again, why did it say that? To teach me that the whole parak is Rav Yossi. I don't need that. I don't need Rav Huna for this because this is the Mishnah we're talking about. We're not talking about a later Mishnah like the Tulihim and Ehudim, which is where Chiddush. That's also Rav Yossi, even though it doesn't say Rav Yossi over there. But we say the whole parak goes like Rav Yossi. Our Mishnah itself is Rav Yossi. It says Amar Div Rav Yossi. The whole Mishnah is Rav Yossi. Umasnis Rav Yossi. The Amar Huna Kula Perk Rav Yossi. Umay Eni Yochel Hefer. What does it mean you can't break in those cases? Mishimini nefesh, you can't break it in nefesh. I'm made from the dam shebein lebeino. So now when we look at the Mishnah back on Ayin Testament days, take a look at the Mishnah again. Amar Biosi, Ein El nefesh. Yeah, washing and kisha is not nefesh. Elu Hein nefesh. What is in nefesh? Amar Kon Peres Shalom Alai. That's in nefesh. Even according to Biosi, that's in nefesh, and you can break for everybody. Harezi Achalefer. Let's say she says Peres Medina Zu Alai Yavim Din Acheres. The fruits of this country are usher to me, or the fruits of this store are usher to me. He can't break them because of eating nefesh. Why? Because Rabbi Yossi is going with his shita that not everything that the rabbi says is eating nefesh, I hold is eating nefesh. Just like I say, washing and adorning is not eating nefesh. If she only forbids the payers, certain payers like this country or this store, that's not eating nefesh. However, it could be bein al bein, says the Gemara. So even though our Mishnah said he can't break that ein yochel hefer, means ein yochel hefer because of any nefesh, but if it might affect the relationship. For example, she says, I don't want the fruits from the store. You don't want the fruits from the store? It's not really any nefesh, right? Because she could eat other things, right? It's not nefesh. But it's been, what do you mean? I got to drive 20 miles now to another store? This is the only store in our neighborhood. You want me to drive 20 miles? Then he's not going to be too happy about that. That's bein al beina. That's affecting their relationship. If she swears I'm not going to the Mets game, he says, don't go, who cares? He doesn't care either. But if she's talking about, I don't want you to shop in this store, I want you to drive 20 or 50 miles to another store, that'd be too much, especially if you have to go by bus, right? That affects a relationship. So when Rabbi Yossi says in the Mishnah, Ein Yachal Hefer, you can't break those, Ein Yachal Hefer in the case, or bring it from another country, or Ben Chanbani Zeh, Ein Yachal Hefer means Mishum, because it's not a nefesh. Just like washing and adorning is not a nefesh. If she has only certain payers from this guy or this country, that's not a nefesh, right? If that's the only one that he could get, then it's certainly that's the only place he can get it. Then it could be even be in an nefesh, because then effectively she's saying that that's the only place he can get favors from. But if it's possible to get favors somewhere else, it's not in a nefesh. But it could be bein l'beina. And even when we said it before, when we said according to Yossi that washing and adorning is not in nefesh, but it is bein l'beina. Anything that affects bein l'beina, if it causes a rift between them, that's bein l'beina, and you could break that as far as they're concerned. All right, so that's Rabbi Yossi, and that's the vision. Now we're back in our Gemara on the third line on Amud Beis. Amar Rav Yehuda Shmuel. Another halach of Shmuel. Now, before we finish this, and I mentioned before, when the Ran says that also, when he says our Mishnah goes to Rabbi Yossi, like Rav Huna says that our Mishnah says the favorite Rabbi Yossi, he just means to say, he means to fend off another kasha. The Ran says that if you want to ask another kasha on this from a later Mishnah, we'll tell you all the Mishnahs or Rabbi Yossi. The Ran says, if you look in the right after, let's say, I don't know how to call it, the middle wide lines on Pei Beis and the Beis, right after the narrow lines end. Since we finish off as we at the end the Shmuel the Amar Rabbanan, since we come out the Shmuel holds like Rabbanan, and that Mishnah goes like Rabbi Yossi, Naktina Kavasaya, we pass like him. Ba'afak the Kula Pik Rabbi Yossi, even though the whole Mishnah, we're saying the whole parakas goes to Rabbi Yossi, as we've just explained. Lav Stam, it's not a Stam. If it's a Stam Mishnah, we'd say maybe Rabbi Paskin like the Stam Mishnah. That's why he brought it down anonymously. But since it's Rabbi Yossi, the keeping the Kani Tana Divri Rabbi Yossi, Yisera, Havalakil Tanan Beds, as if it said in each case, as if he said in each Mishnah, Rabbi Yossi. Chen Das Ramban, others disagree, but that's the Ran's opinion here. That since we say those missions goes like Rabbi Yossi, we don't pass like Rabbi Yossi, we pass like the Rabbanan, and therefore that is the dorm that are certainly inu nefesh, the husband can break. Rabbi Yossi says those aren't necessarily inu nefesh, but the dorm that we've been speaking about, we pass like Shmuel and like the Rabbanan, they call the dorm Baal Mefer L'Isha Chutz Min Asi, knows anything that involves inu nefesh. And his interpretation of inu nefesh is greater than the interpretation of Rabbi Yossi. The husband can break. That's what the Ran Sheik and Ran mentioned that also before that he paskins like the Rabbanan in our mission, not like Rabbi Yossi. Okay, now the Gemara on the third line on Pei Beis and Beis. Amar Rabbi Shmuel. Nadra mishtei kikros. Let's say she made a neder. She's not going to have 2 loaves of bread. All she has are these 2 loaves of bread. There's no other bread around. She has these 2 loaves of bread. One is self-affliction, one's not. The Ran says one has got fine flour and one's made from coarse flour, lousy bread. If she's not eating that, that's not self-affliction. She doesn't like that bread anyway. But she made a neder, one neder. She says, I'm not going to have any of the bread here in the house. All she has are these 2 loaves. One's a good loaf, and by not eating that, that's self-affliction, and one's a bad loaf. And apparently she doesn't have access to other loaves. Otherwise, it wouldn't be inui if she has other. She only has these 2 loaves, and that's what she's got. So, what do you say over here? We just said that the husband, not mishtei kikros, if she made a neder from these 2 kikros, could go into mishtei kikros elu alai, says the Ran, right? So the question over here is, can he break both those? Now we're assuming over here that it's not bein l'beina, or you could say it's going current to Yossi, but let's assume that it's not affecting bein l'beina, doesn't affect their relationship. It's just a question of her food. So one is inu nefesh, one's not. Can he break the neder or not? It's one neder. He can only break the darim that are inu nefesh or bein l'beina. But let's say it's not bein l'beina, so it's only inu nefesh. But part of the neder is inu nefesh, part's not. The loaf that's good is inu nefesh. The part that's not good is not inu nefesh. So the Tanakama here, which is Rav Shmuel, says, what does he say? Since he can break the one which is inu nefesh, which is self-affliction, he can break that as far as the good loaf is concerned. He can break the other one together because it's all one neder, and he has to break the entire neder, as Ron's going to explain. We'll see the Ron inside soon. He has to break the entire neder. He can't break a partial neder. So since he's entitled to break the neder as far as the good loaf is concerned, he can break the whole thing. No. When he breaks it, whatever he says, even if he says I'm breaking the whole thing, he can only break the nefesh one. He can't break as far as the other loaf is concerned. And therefore, the other loaf remains forbidden to her, even if she so desires it later on to eat. She can't eat that. That's how Ravasi, that's the machlokus over here between Rabbi Yochanan and Shmuel. Right? Rabbi Shmuel says you can break the whole thing. Rabbi Yochanan says you can only break the one that's self-affliction, the good loaf, not the bad loaf. Economy, some bring it down as a question. Boy mine, Ravasi Rabbi Yochanan, Ravasi asks Rabbi Yochanan, Nodar Mishikov, she made it for too quicker. One is self-affliction, one's a good loaf. And the other one is not a good loaf. What's the halacha? Amalei, so he answered him, you can only break the good and not the bad one. So he asked this kasha of Rabbi Yochanan, and that's Rabbi Yochanan. He usually passing Rabbi Yochanan. He was the postik in Eretz Yisrael, the girl of Eretz Yisrael. So he said, you can only break that one, not the other one. Okay. What's the svaras here behind this? Says the Ran. Take a look at the Ran. About 7 lines down in the widest lines in the Ran. Ravasi Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi says, no, that's Rabbi Yochanan's psak, that you can only break it as far as the good loaf is concerned, not as far as the other one. Only break it as far as Masana. He doesn't hold that one schleps the other one, that you can drag the other one. Shmuel says, since you can break the netter as far as the good loaf is concerned, because that's in the nefesh, the other one comes along with it. He doesn't hold it. Hilkach hafilu heifer beferish. Even if he said beferish, limasan, so even if he says, I'm breaking both of them. I'm breaking the good loaf. I'm breaking the net as far as the good loaf, which is self-affliction as far as the other one. Ain't no for not broken. L'shein Messiah can't. Both sides. That's what my Rebbe's explained. That but I never understood anyone. What's Shmuel's reason? Why does Shmuel say, as far as Shmuel says, since you could break the good one, you could break the other one. Schleps comes along with it too. It's gorer. It schleps the other one along too. Why? So the Ran explains beautifully here. The crux of the pasuk says, we're going to see this later on. We said, Isha, you can remember, if you can confirm it, you can deny it. We had that before. But another Russian, Isha, if you renew, break the whole thing. We're going to see later on, next week, or later this week, that Sarah Chabal, Shiur for Kol Netter, he's got to break the whole thing. You got to break the whole netter. Can't break a partial netter. It made from so I feel my shave for any for. Can't break a head. Let's say she made it for many things and he only broke it for one. It doesn't work that way. You got to break the whole thing or nothing from him. Look, come on. That's how we're going to see later on that you can only break the entire thing. You can't break it partial. Again, Michael B'siyata D'Shmaya, he says that I'm going to write about that later on. That's why he says, why Shmuel says that if she made an netter from 2 krikros, Harei Hain is a girsa, it's like one netter. You can't break part of it. The friend said break the whole thing. Since he has to break it as far as the inin nefesh is concerned, and he can break the one for nefesh, made for gamkin l'sheina, made for l'sheina masana. Break the other one that doesn't affect it. Made for if you say he can't break the other one, if you can't break the one that doesn't affect self-affliction, he can't break the one for self-affliction either, because you got to break the whole netter. The Kim Rachmana Yavle Rishis for the Dharm. Since Hashem gave him permission to break the Dharm, Sheish by Mini Nefesh, Al Korchach made for Af B'Sheina Masana. The Masana B'Sheina Masana, because the affliction one is dependent on the one that doesn't involve self-affliction, because you can't break part of it. So therefore, and the Torah said you could break the one that involves self-affliction. It must be that you can break the whole thing. And if you can't break it, if you can't break it at all, there is an nefesh. Torah says you can break it if it involves in nefesh. How can I break this one if it involves in nefesh if it's one netter included with it inu nefesh on one loaf and no inu nefesh on the other one? Torah says I'm entitled. If you say I can't do it because I can't break a half a netter, then that involves inu nefesh for the good loaf. So therefore, Shmuel says you can break the whole netter entirely, even as far as the coarse loaf is involved. Rav Asiyam Rabbi Yochanan says no. Made for the Masana. Why? The sphere lay. What about the fact that you have to break a whole net? You can't break partial. The sphere lay dina for Enam Rachmana Damashba Kulei. Your friend means you got to break the whole thing below Palge. Hainu Lemor Shit Sarach Leifer Kol Hanetishu Yochel Leifer. Doesn't mean you have to break the whole netter. Period. No question. You have to break everything that you're capable of breaking. The Torah only gave you permission to break the Nadarim that involves self-affliction. The coarse loaf doesn't involve self-affliction. So the Torah gave you permission to break the whole net. You got to break the whole netter. Let's say she made a netter from 3 loaves. One was coarse, doesn't offset. The other one involve self-affliction. One was rye bread and one was white bread, but they're both good bread. And he wants to break only one of those two, one of the good ones. No, because he has to break everything involves self-affliction. Everything is, yes, you have to break the whole netter. You have to break all of the netter that the Torah entitles you to break. The Torah doesn't entitle you to break the netter that doesn't involve self-affliction. That's how Ravasi or Rabbi Yochanan will learn. The Rav Meir Shapiro call a netter shu yochel hefer. The efren of the I in the nefesh it's going in the nefesh. He'll go call shehefer kol ma sheyesh bo in the nefesh b'achisagi. As long as you broke everything that you're capable of breaking, anything that involves the nefesh, that's good enough. The efren that's called yafirenu. You broke everything that you can break. The Ran's a little bit verbose, but it's explaining. It's like learning the Rashbam and Bavas, right? B'chitema im kain the sfirle the Shmuel. If Shmuel holds the efren al kula neterkoi. If you say according to Shmuel, that if Shmuel holds it, you have to break the whole thing, right? Not like Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says you can only break only the part involves in the nefesh, and as far as you're breaking everything that you're capable of breaking. According to Shmuel says no, it means the whole netter period, even the part that you're not really mutter to break. But since you can only break the whole thing together, you're entitled to break everything, including the part that's not in the nefesh. We're going to Sivna take some assistance on why she asked the kasha from the Mishnah we said before. We put at the beginning of today's Shiur, we said, Natulahi Manei Yehudim, Yefer Chelko, right? If she says, I am removed from all Jews, I can't be with any of them, he could break his share. The Tamish Brus, she can't be with him. As far as everybody else is concerned, why don't you say, Kiva the Yefrenu Rachmana, since you say Hashem say Yefrenu, we talk Shefer Mefer Chelko, Mefer Nami Chelik Yehudim, the Blavachi, Lo Efsher. Why don't you say, listen, according to Shmuel, you have to break a whole netter. So she made a netter, I'm not going to have deal with any Jews. What do we say in the Mishnah over there? He could break the net as far as he's concerned, that's Beina Lebeina, but he can't break it as far as everybody else. So if she gets divorced or widowed from him, she can't marry anybody else without having a Tar Sidarim first. So why? According to Shmuel, she should be able to break, since he has to be able to break one part of it, she should be able to break the whole thing. Right? We say, the Efsher, the Sphere, the Shmuel, the Efrenu, the Mashmakula, Velopalge, that's only be Inu Nefesh. This is what we say Efrenu is only involved in Nefesh. And as we said before, the Bia is only Beina Lebeina. Maybe in the Rabbanan, certainly in Rabbi Yossi, like that Mishnah was going to Rabbi Yossi, maybe even according to Rabbanan in the Pesach, we don't know. In other words, if it's only Beina Lebeina, then we don't have this idea that includes everything. This is what we say that Yefren, you got to break the whole netter. That's only if it's in nefesh, not if it's bein no. Umastis and lekamanu brayser the ma'isla b'gemara the didu in nefesh nakabah. When we talk about Yefrenu, about in nefesh, but lo b'vam shebein l'bana. And what's the difference? Why do you say, oh, Yefren means the whole thing? Only the whole thing according to Shmuel. We don't necessarily pass like that. We pass like Rabbi Yochanan. Probably you can only break the part that's in nefesh, not the part that's not in nefesh. That's only the good bread, not the bad bread. But even if you say according to Shmuel that you break the whole thing because Yefren means the whole netter, so that's only Beino Beino, but not if it's in nefesh. Why? The other way around. I'm sorry, you can break the whole thing only if it's in nefesh, not if it's Beino Beino. Why? Listen to the 3 lines from the bottom of the page in the Ran. It's as far that way too. He says beautiful story. The nidr in nefesh. When he breaks into the nefesh, Mishum paid it does because of her. When she makes a nefesh, who is she hurting? She's hurting herself, right? I'm not going to eat. I'm not going to wash myself. All that stuff is it's self-affliction, right? The matzimei for the inuya gabohi mushmachi ain't a bedin shia for the chatzoin. You can't break half of it. The homani let's say that might hurt her even more. Not necessarily in this case where she didn't want the bad bread, but when she makes inu nefesh, you can't say you break part of it. Well, maybe that's even worse. That maybe she makes a net and she's not going to have red grapes and green grapes, and you want to break the green grapes, that, but not the other part. That's also inui. That's even rounding her more. Then no, he wants to even he's gonna drive it to her even more. You want to afflict yourself here? I'm going to make it even more complicated for you because when she's inu nefesh, she's doing something that's self-afflicting. So therefore, it makes sense to say, listen, either you can only break the whole thing, not partial. When the norm that he breaks is because it affects their relationship, who is it affecting? It's affecting him. He's upset by that. You're making a net that's affecting me. If she makes a net about not going to the Mets game, he doesn't care about that. If she makes a net about not eating fruits or vegetables, okay, she's hurting herself. right? So there you say, listen, break the whole thing because it's her that you're dealing with. You're affecting her affliction. But if it's something that affects their relationship, let's say like Bia, it affects their relationship, doesn't affect, it's not even an effort, it's affect the relationship. That's he's the one who's concerned. He'll mind the low covet. When he's not concerned about not covet, mind the covet, got a covet shari. In other words, it's possible to say over there that, okay, if it's, she says, Natuli Mir, I'm not going to be with any Jews, as far as he's concerned, it affects him, so he wants to break that part of the netter. As far as the netter affecting anybody else, what is he worried about somebody else? He doesn't care about beef somebody else. Right now, he's married to her. He's not concerned about her having beer with somebody else after his marriage is over, after he dies or is divorced. So as far as say, my lo couple, my the couple shari. Therefore, he's worried about himself. So there's a basic difference between beina lebeina versus ina nefesh means it's affecting her. It's affecting her. So he doesn't have permission to break half of it and not the other. If according to Shmuel, according to Yochanan, yes, because he's breaking everything that the Torah permitted him to break, not the part that the Torah didn't permit. According to Shmuel, you break part of it, you break the whole thing. If Renu means entirely. But even according to Shmuel, you could say that if it's something in beina lebeina, there you could break part of it because ina nefesh affects her. So you can't mess around with her. It's her life, and you can start saying she's not going to have vegetables. You say, you know what? I'm going to confirm that. I'm going to break it as far as celery is concerned, but not as far as carrots. What are you driving her crazy for? Break the whole thing. But if it's something of beino lebeino, if it's something that affects their relationship, you can say, listen, I'm not good about this, not about that. I'm not good about our bia that we're going to have right now in our marriage. I'm not good about bia that you may have with somebody else in the future. That's how he explains it, and that's what makes sense. But still, as far as this halacha goes, we're saying Rabbi Yochanan says, as far as the two loaves, he can break it as far as the good loaf is concerned, not as far as the bad loaf is concerned. Esvei, a woman made a netter that she wants to be a nazir, and she was over on the netter. She was drinking wine. She made herself a nazira, right? And she was matama mason. Even though bas kohen, there's no prohibition being tamil lames. Usually, a woman has no problem with a mace, even a bas kohen. Right? It's not like a kohen. A bas kohen can go to a funeral, but if she's a nazira, she can't. Haresa, she gets malchus for that. But hey, for labala, let's say she broke the netter. Hey, for labala, I'm sorry, not she broke it. He canceled her netter. Because in Naziris, as we'll see, is a kind of a netter. Let's say he broke it. He heard about it that day. He broke it. He didn't know. She didn't know that he broke it. And she thought she was being over. Michael, that's why the post says Hashem Yislach Lo, right? Hashem Yislach Lo. Hashem was going to forgive her, even though she thought she was doing an avera, but she wasn't really doing an avera because her husband had broken it already, and she was drinking wine and tamleisim. She doesn't get when she's forbidden to drink wine as a nazira. That could be eating nefesh. But what about not eating the seeds and the kernels, right, and the skin of the grape? That's not really eating nefesh. You're not going to have that. So if you say that according to Belchan, you can only break the part that involves eating nefesh. For example, the two loaves of bread, one good, one bad. Here too, the wine is good, the seeds are not. Dilma min yayin dislate sour hefelo min chayit sedem min zaglo hefelo. The Lashon of Dilma is strange. The Ran says he doesn't mean Dilma, perhaps. He just means Slav Dafka, Ran says. Because even if he breaks it on purpose, he can't break the parts that don't involve eating nefesh. If you say like Rabbi Yochanan, that what? That he can only, if it's eating nefesh, he only break the parts that's eating nefesh, like the good bread. He can't break the part that's not good bread, that's not eating nefesh. So here also, why do you say that if he broke her naziris, she doesn't get malchus? What do you mean? He only broke it presumably as far as the part that involves eating nefesh, like the wine. But as far as the seeds and the kernels, right? The kernels and the skin, he can't break it. That's not eating nefesh. He can't break that. So if she ate grapes, she should get malchus, right? This there's no tzara there, but this one she should get malchus. There's no such thing as nazir. So you can't be a nazir for wine. And for the seeds and the kernels and not for wine. It doesn't go that way. It all goes together. So he doesn't like the Amalei Abai says, what kind of lashon that? How carbon lechatzin is? Let's say she was a nazir for 15 out of the 30 days. Stam nazir says 30 days, right? It says is gematria 30 days. So we'll see. Let's say he broke it after 15 days. She doesn't bring karbanos. What are you saying? But she would her carbon there is. She would bring a carbon for that. You don't bring carbon unless it's 30 days. That's the answer. It's no nazirs for half an carbon. In other words, Rabbi Yochanan could be right. Maybe it's possible you could only break and the part of the neder that involves in an nefesh and not the part that doesn't involve in nefesh. But you can't use that excuse by being a Nazira. It's not like she says, I'm not going to drink wine. But I'm not going to drink wine and I'm not going to be a Nazira. I've just forbidden myself to drink wine and grapes. She didn't forbid herself to get a haircut or to go to message. She didn't really become a Nazira. She just forbade herself from wine and grapes. So the wine is in the nefesh, the grapes, or maybe the grape seeds are not. So then if he would break it as far as the wine is concerned, it wouldn't be broken for the grape seeds. But if she becomes a Nazira, there's no such thing as a partial Nazira. You're either a Nazir or not. So once he breaks it for part of the Naziris, the whole thing is broken automatically. We're not done with this. We'll finish this sugya tomorrow.
Okay, why do we take serious? The woman says, I won't do this or that.
Right.
Because they haven't had the education to know what a neder is.
Well, but she apparently knows what it is. She says, I'm making a neder. She knows what a neder is. If she doesn't know what it is, then it wouldn't be a neder. But if she knows what it is. Right.